All right, guys, go ahead and get seated. I know that so many of you all have gotten the chance to interact with Sheila over these years and also hopefully today. But Sheila Pierson has really been the heart and soul of so much of what we've done on the research side of things. She has helped us to come up with what are the research questions we're going to ask, and also really leading all the analysis of this work, which has led to major breakthroughs. So super excited to introduce Sheila, who leads our registry ACCELERATE, but also leads all the clinical research we do, and then also is really involved in a bunch of other research involving proteomics and basically anything and everything we've done that's been important over the last 6 years. Sheila's been involved in some way. So really excited to introduce Sheila, and she'll talk to you guys about ACCELERATE updates.
Well, thank you. I hope you can hear me all right. So I'm Sheila, if you didn't know me, and thanks, David, for that intro. So I'm going to try to make this brief. I know we've had a long day, but I do know that for myself, I like at least kind of knowing what I'm contributing to. And so many people in this room are contributing to our research, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So I want to give you some insights into what we've done and what we're going to be doing. Ooh. Okay, so why contribute to ACCELERATE? So ACCELERATE's our non-interventional research study. And so what that means is we're not really asking you to go to a doctor at any given time. We're not asking you to take any specific medications. We're just asking you to sign up and allow us to call your doctors and say, hey, can we see their medical data so that we can collect their data around Castleman disease? So it's pretty simple for you. And these data help us to better understand the disease characteristics, patient subgroups, and treatments. And so we consider this just a piece of the puzzle. And then the biobank. So one thing to note, you've probably heard from Chriswell, you've heard from Bridget, you've heard from our whole team. The ACCELERATE and the biobank studies are two separate studies. So we always ask people to enroll in both because the biobank allows us to collect blood and lymph node tissue. So blood is really helpful for us for studying IMCD and for multicentric disorder, and lymph node samples, especially fresh lymph node, is really helpful for us in studying UCD. So if you're ever, in a flare, or if you're ever, you're going to get another lymph node taken out, connect with us in some way, and we'll make sure, really, Bridget will make sure that that's taken care of very, very easily. So, and this is just another piece of the puzzle. And, though it's a cliche, we really do think that with enough patient samples and data, we'll be able to solve this whole puzzle of Castleman disease. So just to give you an idea of how these studies work together, ACCELERATE there's actually a 2-arm enrollment. So most people in this room probably enrolled online if you're involved in ACCELERATE. We also do have some sites in Europe where physicians will help patients enroll. And then once you enroll, we have Chriswell here, who many of you have met, and she's the first person who will know that you've enrolled. She'll start right away the next morning, like 8 a.m. the next morning, she's going to start reaching out to your physicians, not to you, but to hospitals and physicians to get those medical data and this tissue. And then we have a really great team of data analysts here. So Natalie, Sai, and Mateo, they meticulously go through your medical data so that we can extract that into our database. And then Bridget, of course, will reach out to you about blood samples and tissue samples so that we can pair your tissue and your blood to this clinical data, and we can really better understand. It's one thing to get these clinical data, but it's a little bit it's a whole other thing when we have a blood sample and we can understand what's going on in your body and as well as what your physicians are seeing. And then we're able to make these high impact discoveries. So our translational lab with Melanie and Abiola and Mike, they're able to help us make all of these discoveries here. And then I just get to do the easy job of trying to disseminate our research and tell you about it. So this is really just a fraction of the people who work on these studies. But just so you know that all of these people are really, really here working hard on your data. And so I do want to just walk through briefly what we've learned. We started ACCELERATE up in 2016, and we really started the biobank up, a couple years later, probably 2018 is when we really started amping up collecting samples. And so we've learned a lot over the years. So I'm going to briefly walk through what we've learned. So in 2018, a couple of years after starting up ACCELERATE, the first study that we were able to use ACCELERATE samples and some data towards, we learned that there are certain signaling proteins called chemokines that are up in IMCD. They're upregulated or they're activated in IMCD. And that's helped us to home in on this one chemokine specifically that we think is really important for indicating whether or not you might respond to a siltuximab or tocilizumab. We also identified this pathway called PI3 kinase AKT-mTOR. So that's just a pathway, a cellular pathway in your body. And what we know about that is there's a drug called sirolimus that targets part of that pathway and is able to block that pathway and induce a response in some patients. So this is really important because patients who don't respond to siltuximab or tocilizumab might respond to sirolimus instead. And so we dug a little bit deeper in that, and we actually found that this part of this pathway called mTOR is up in the lymph node as well. And so that kind of supports the use of sirolimus in patients. So, these are important information for us to know because we want to make sure that there's treatments available for everyone. So if this treatment's not working for some people, we need to find other treatments. We identified certain immune cells that are activated in IMCD, and that these immune cells are associated with what's called a type 1 interferon response. And so I can't tell you too much more about that other than I know that Melanie is looking into this and she's trying to dig deeper into whether or not this signature, type 1 interferon signature, how associated and how much it drives IMCD. We've used ACCELERATE to confirm and validate these international evidence-based consensus diagnostic and treatment guidelines for UCD. So this is really important for patients so that you're diagnosed faster so that you can be treated more quickly. So, if physicians are doing surgeries and then, if a surgery is not the best treatment or if you still have lingering symptoms, we give guidelines as to what should be used next. We were able to show actually that our approach to research really is successful and feasible. So this approach where we ask all of you guys to enroll online actually isn't very common. So most of the time research is done where you visit your doctor, they enroll you in research. But here we consider it patient powered because we ask you to just enroll yourselves and then we'll do the work. And we were able to show that this is actually really successful, especially in rare diseases. We found that there is a subgroup of patients who respond to siltuximab who have kind of a unique signature in their blood, and we might be able to use that to predict which patients are more likely to respond to siltuximab. We also validated what's called these TAFRO, the TAFRO definition. So TAFRO is the most severe subtype of IMCD. And again, kind of identifying and validating that definition allows doctors to recognize it quicker. We found that there's certain features in bone marrow of patients with IMCD that's distinct, and that can again help with diagnosis. We found that there's another part of this mTOR pathway that's activated. So with mTOR, there's a kind of one complex and another complex. And sirolimus, the drug that we found that blocks mTOR in the past, it works really well on mTOR1, but not as well on mTOR2. So here we found that maybe there's dual inhibitors that might work because this other part of the pathway is up. And then we also looked into patients who died from their Castleman disease and compared their data to patients who are living and to try to better understand the fatal outcomes in patients with Castleman disease. So that's kind of everything that we've done. That's 11 different studies we've been able to do and work on in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And so we really think that that's a huge success, and it's all thanks to your data and your samples and everything that you've contributed. So we have a lot more work to do. We, of course, Castleman disease is broken into unicentric, multicentric. We know that there's something in between. There's patients who don't quite fit either definition. And then we have HHV8 positive, POMS, and IMCD. So, what are we doing for all these disorders here? So for UCD, patients heard earlier from Josh, he's doing a study into abnormal cells that direct cellular traffic in the lymph node. And with fresh lymph node donations, he's able to look deeper into these cells and determine whether these are causing UCD. And then Matteo is working on a study about ongoing symptoms after Castleman or after lymph node resection. So we know from many of you and from these patient summits that patients are still having symptoms after surgery. And so he's digging deeper into what are those symptoms, how frequently are we seeing those? So we'll be able to report on that. We're also trying to figure out, these patients that don't cleanly fit into UCD and IMCD. So, we're trying to describe that. And with all those patients who enroll into ACCELERATE, we can better understand, okay, these patients fit into UCD, these ones fit into IMCD, but can we describe the people in between? and describing those people who don't cleanly fit into those categories, that's more information for your doctors to know that there's more patients like you out there as well. For IMCD, we're looking into treatments. So we're doing a study right now based on clinical data through ACCELERATE, where we're describing the treatments that are used and that are working. So we'll be able to, report to physicians that these treatments are working, and the guidelines that we suggest for treating Castleman disease, we can validate and look into those. We're doing a study of IMCD blood samples to look for shared genetic changes. So many patients have donated blood samples, and what we're going to be looking for is there actually a shared genetic mutation in these samples to help us understand if there's anything genetic causing IMCD. We're doing a study into hospitalizations, interventions, and disease risk in IMCD. So, clinical data that's collected through ACCELERATE, we can describe the impact of healthcare utilization, developing cancers, risk of developing cancers, and comorbidities. And then, that's what we're actively currently working on, among many other things. I haven't even really touched on the stuff that's being worked on in the translational lab. But down the pipeline, we have a lot of other things we want to look into. So characterizing POEMS-associated MCD, characterizing Castleman disease in pediatric cases, reporting on pregnancy. We want to look into kidney disorders in patients, characterizing relapse and refractory cases, and safety and adverse event profiles of these treatments. So there's a lot that we want to do, and a lot that we still want to hear from you about what you're interested in us looking into as well. And so how can you further contribute? Well, I think that we have, we've probably convinced many of you to enroll in ACCELERATE. So if you haven't, or if you don't know, feel free to reach out to Chriswell, to any of us, but I'm volunteering Chriswell because I know she's so good at helping with this stuff. Same with Biobank. Reach out to Bridget if you have any questions or if you want to donate anything. We do send out 3 monthly surveys from ACCELERATE. So if you get those, that information is helpful for us to know how you're doing. This is really important. If you know, we hope you don't get sick or have a flare, but if you do start feeling ill, or if you know you're going to have a lymph node excision, reach out to anyone on our team and we'll connect you with Bridget. Let us know when you're going to go off therapy or start a new therapy. We can, perhaps look into whether or not we should collect more information on how you're doing there and add that to our research studies. Tell us if siltuximab or tocilizumab didn't work for you. And then reach out if you want any information on any of these studies. I know there's a lot of studies that we've done, but I'd happily send you more information. And you can enroll and get more information by going to cdcn.org/accelerate. So if you have any questions, feel free to check that out. But that's really it. I really just wanted to give a brief overview of everything that we've done and let you know that we really are every day working very hard with your data, with your samples, trying to understand this disease and trying to make sure that we're making more treatments available for patients like you. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for coming and allowing me to speak for a few minutes.
Make a quick comment. I think we heard today that I'm not certain, but I think that it may be that every single patient who's at the patient summit today has already joined ACCELERATE or joined today, which is that true? Is it 100%? It's just about so we're very close, but I think that deserves a round of applause. Like they're very close. It's amazing. I mean, Sheila showed all of the amazing stuff that we've been able to do with the data, but we can't do anything if we don't have data. And the more data we have, the more we can do. And I did also want to just call out, there was a number on one of the last couple slides that listed the number of patients in ACCELERATE, the number of patients who started the process to join ACCELERATE. And there's a pretty big gap. There's a few hundred people that have started the process of joining ACCELERATE, but haven't gone through the process to finish. And it doesn't sound like there'll be many people in here because I think most people have completed in here. But for people watching virtually, the extra 10 or 15 minutes that it will take you to finish that process will literally get all of your records. We'll have a team of people that'll go line by line. They spend about a week or 2 weeks full time, only working on reading your records. It's pretty amazing. And so if you're haven't completed, but you haven't started the process, please do complete, because we actually can't do anything unless you've consented and made it through that step with the registry. So big shout out to all the amazing people who have taken the time to get into Accelerate, but also a big request to anyone who started the process but hasn't finished it. Just wanted to say this couple things. Any last comments or questions for Sheila before turning it over to Mileva? All right, Mileva.
I just want to say that we found like a yellow notepad earlier in the bathroom. And so if this is, all right, I'll come give it to you later then.
Okay, so I promise to actually be really brief because a lot of what I'm gonna briefly talk about are things that we have actually talked through all day today. So I'm just gonna wrap it all in a big bow and hit it home for you guys. The biggest thing I want to focus on today is just how you guys can fight back. To start with that, I actually just want to tell you why I started this journey. So sorry, I advanced too far. But we're just going to go with it. I wanted to fight back because my daughter Katie got sick. Most of you do know that. You've heard my story. You've talked with me. You kind of know Katie got sick before she was 2. I'm a fixer. I hated that. I wanted to know what was going on. The first thing I did was found David, reached out to him and I said, I want to be involved. I don't know what I can do. He was planning the first ever Patient and Loved One Summit. So he said, why don't you come on out? So I got on an airplane and I flew out to California. It was a very small group. We have grown since then. I think we had 12, 15 people that was at that first summit. I walked up to him. I introduced myself and I said, I don't know what role I can play in this organization, but I want to help. She was the start of what my why was. She is the reason why I fight every single day, but now it has grown so much so that you guys are the biggest reason outside of my daughter why I do this. I want to make sure that I can continue to do this to help fight for you guys, to advocate for you, to make sure that you're not sitting in a doctor's office feeling alone, that you do not think that there's nobody else out there who are able to help you. So my why started with my daughter who was sick and I wanted to do what I could to help her. It has since grown to help our Castle kids, because there are several pediatric cases. It has also, and one of the biggest reasons why, and it really fuels the fire for us, we unfortunately do lose patients. And one of the first encounters I had outside of David was with the Driscoll family, whose daughter Elise is in the very top corner. Nick and his daughter Becca are actually here today. They have stayed a member of our community even after losing their daughter years and years and years ago. They were my first encounter, and it was super scary to think that as a parent, they lost their daughter, and I have a child who also has Castleman disease. Since then, every single patient that we lose really fuels a fire for not just me, but for our whole entire team, because we know that we don't have all the answers, but we really want to continue to fight for the people that we have lost. These are just some of the faces. The list has grown, unfortunately, but it really, really, really pushes us every single day, night and day, to continue to work to find these answers for all of you. So how do we do that? The slides are not working. There's several pieces in this puzzle, and this is this is what we've talked about and what I want to kind of tie in a big bow for you. As David just mentioned, all of you, most of you have enrolled in ACCELERATE Registry. That's fantastic. That really allows us to look at all of those unknowns that you're going through in your individual battle and look at them across the span of every single one of you and compare what's going on between each and every one of you. One of the other ways you can do that is donating blood samples. A lot of you have already done that. If you haven't, like Sheila talked about, reach out to us. Let us know that you would like to do that. Bridget will help make that process very, very seamless. So those are the 2 biggest things that we want to have from you. The other 3 things are, like, we cannot do the research that we're doing without fundraising, without people donating. Now, we all have our own very specific and individual networks, so we can each reach out to the people in our networks and not just tell them that we want to have money from them, but educate them on what we're doing as an organization. Our story is so powerful. Your story is so impactful. So we can, as a group, continue to network within our own groups and let them know that the CDCN is here, that I have this disease. I'm trying to fight this battle and I want to continue to do that. And I want to help accelerate this research. And this is how we can do it. You can attend these events. You can attend Quest, which is our largest fundraiser that we have in November. You can join the Warrior Program, which is a group of patients who have come together, patients and loved ones who have come together to try to do everything that they possibly can to be on this team and continue to push forward, raising awareness, fundraising, and rallying all of you guys, not just in person, but on social media, and just being that larger support system. I'm just going to skip the slides altogether. So like I said, we also heard you guys before. You talked about the Warrior program. I talked about the Warrior program. We heard the feedback from you guys. You love the fact that that exists, but thought that it needed to expand. So over the last year and a half, we actually spent a lot of time talking to past warriors, current warriors, figuring out how we can expand that program so that it kind of fits for everybody, so that you can all have a place in that. So it's not just about fundraising anymore. Obviously, that is a huge thing that we as a warrior group want, and it's been super impactful. So as a warrior group to date, we've raised almost $100,000. So that's just a few of you going out into your own networks, with your own family members, with your own friends, in your own communities, letting them know about the CDCN, letting them know about your story, sharing your own personal fundraiser links. That $100,000 has been able to turn around and fund different research studies within the CDCN. So that's a super amazing thing to celebrate from the people who have been involved in that. Now, taking that one step further, like I said, it's not just about fundraising. We each can bring something to the table. So over the last year and a half, we kind of took some time figuring out what that picture can look like. So it's now just all of you can join this program to fundraise, yes, but to be an advocate in your area. So you can be a patient ambassador in your very specific area, where you can kind of help educate and corral not just the other patients in the area, but the physicians, the researchers, the people on your loved one or patient's support staff, kind of being that ambassador in your general area. We have monthly calls, so all of you will be able to get on that call with us. We kind of brainstorm ways that we as a group can be super impactful. We have a really, really great group. We've talked through things like the summit. What kind of topics would be really good for all of you patients to continue to be educated on? How can we raise funds better? What kind of events can we be doing in each individual specific organizations? Another thing that we're able to do is we launched the new CDCN discussion platform. You guys can be advocates on that. So you can help invigorate conversations, answer questions that patients are putting out there. Connect with me. I know not everybody's going to have answers, but that's what I'm here for. So you can ask me, and I can go to our team of 20 people and say, this is kind of what we're looking for, and somebody will be able to help you guys. And if we don't have the answer, we'll continue to look for that answer. Other ways that you can do that is we're doing this Mythbuster campaign. So over the last several months, David and I have been really honing in on the fact that there's a lot of misinformation out there on Castleman disease. And so we've been diving into that, looking for all of that misinformation and actually correcting that information. But we can't do it alone. You guys are the ones that are Googling different symptoms that your patients are battling, different things that you're reading, and you're coming to us and saying, is this accurate? If it's not, we want to fix that. We want to make sure that the information that you are reading when you do search for answers is the most up-to-date and accurate information. And so again, we can't do it alone. We have this whole entire audience of people who can absolutely help that. So if that's a piece that you think you would love to take on or to be a part of, join our warrior team. Like I said, we will do monthly calls. You will be given all the tools and resources that you need to take on whatever avenue that you want to be a part of. And again, it's just such a really great, impactful way for you to be able to fight back. So to kind of tie this all together, there are 5 main ways to do that. It's to donate samples, which I love that so many of you have already done that. It's to enroll in ACCELERATE, which Chriswell was pointed out several times today. She can help you do that. Helping us raise funds for the impactful research that we're doing. Joining our warrior program, and actually just being a part of this network, this whole entire group together. We cannot do it alone. One of the things that David and I constantly say when we are talking with each other is that, like, we are so thankful for the patients that we have. You guys aren't just numbers on a piece of paper. You guys are the honest to God reason why we sit here and do this every single day. We are so blessed by the amazing patient group that we have, your support, your loved ones. We are able to drive forward this research because you guys sit there and send us everything we need. You send us questions that we want to answer, and you're just there with us. And it's like a huge family to us. And so I just want to thank all of you guys for all that you do to support us. I want to let you guys know that we are here fighting for you. And if you have not donated blood yet, please let us know. If you're not in our ACCELERATE registry yet, please let us know. We will do everything in our power to kind of help you do that. And then I actually want to turn things over to Mary. But again, thank you very, very much. Sorry, my slides are not working. They seem to just be doing their own thing right now. But I'd like to turn things over to Mary. We have a couple awards that we want to go through today, and Mary's going to kick us off with a very special award.
Thank you. So very pleased to be here. Barbara Goodman, if you want to start making your way down. We have a special guest with us. So Barbara is the president of Cures Within Reach. That is another nonprofit. They're focused on repurposing and reuse, which we talked about drug repurposing and the benefits that's had for Castleman disease. So she's here today to present an award, and we'll share a bit more about that.
Can you all hear me? Excellent. So thank you very much for having me. It is a thrill for me to be here. As she said, I'm Barbara Goodman. I'm the president and CEO of Cures Within Reach. And I just want to piggyback off of the closing comment about patients. There's so many people, so many nonprofits really working towards patient impact and changing the course of patients with unmet medical needs. And that's actually why I'm here today. Cures Within Reach is a nonprofit. We're based in Chicago, but our focus is to leverage drug repurposing for testing already approved therapies for new indications. That is the only thing we do. We're disease agnostic, we're geography agnostic, and we focus on finding the clinical trial ideas from the researchers wherever they are. And we've picked the best ones, the highest likelihood for success, for the proof of concept, first in human clinical trial, that when it is successful, follow-on funds from the NIH, from industry, from bigger foundations will come in and do the larger confirmatory studies. That's all we do. And we're thrilled to be doing that for almost 15 years now. We do this. And we currently have 40 projects ongoing around the world, with a number of additional ones coming soon. The reason I'm here is because every single year for about the last 8 to 10 years, we honor and celebrate leaders in the repurposing community who are making an impact in patients and patient care. And I am thrilled to be here to present David Feigenbaum, our 2022 Janet Davison Rowley Patient Impact Research Award. So past awardees have included Stanford University's Spark program, researchers from Scripps, researchers from Harvard, from Mayo Clinic, and also from CHOP, Dr. Tichy, so another local researcher as well. This year, we are so honored to celebrate with all of you David's tireless efforts, and you could all read this with me, but his tireless efforts to not only identify a repurposed treatment for his own rare disease that you all know, but studying and advancing this option and others for patients as the co-founder of Castleman Disease Collaborative Network. Not only that, for the last several years, he's continued his efforts to encourage repurposing all over the world, and recently to find and advance therapies for COVID-19. We could not be more thrilled to be with you today to celebrate and honor David with our 2022 Patient Impact Research Award.
Wow, this is obviously such an honor for me. I just want to share a couple remarks. First off, it's, my name's on the slide, but I think you guys all know just how many people have been a part of this journey, and how, my name might be on the slide and on this very, very cool trophy award, but it's just been such a team effort. So So please just join me in cheering and celebrating people like Mary and Mileva and Tracy and Amber and so many people who've been a part of this journey. When I think about repurposing, it makes me think about the session we just were in about an hour ago, talking about coping with Castleman disease. And there was a really important point made about how you just want to soak up every minute of life when you've gone through Castleman disease and you've almost died from this disease. It makes you just want to like make the most of every little minute that you have. I mean, I know there's so many people in here that have gone through such tough times where you say, like, I'm alive somehow, and like, I just need to make the most of it. And to me, that just connects directly to this idea of repurposing. So drug repurposing is where you take a drug that's approved for one thing and you try to figure out new uses for it. And it's like, if all this work has gone in to make a drug approved for one thing, like, shouldn't we just squeeze out every single other possible use for this drug? And in doing so, all of a sudden we can squeeze out more life for people like me and people like all of you. And so I love what Cures Within Reach is doing. I love that you guys are advancing drug repurposing. So honored that you guys are recognizing us and the work that we've done for Castleman disease. But it feels like it's something that just has to be done. And unfortunately, in the current system, drugs are not utilized for all the diseases they can be used for. They're developed for one disease or a few diseases, and they're studied for a few diseases, but there's so many more opportunities. And so I guess first, as I said, just have to obviously thank our team for all the hard work they've done. Thank so many of you all. There's patients who are here that have been a part of the sirolimus clinical trial, patients who were some of the first patients to ever receive sirolimus, which is the drug that I initially repurposed for myself and now obviously for other patients. So thank you to my team. Thank you to all of you that have been a part of this research. And I think the last thing I just want to highlight is I guess the last sentence of what's up there, and that's that we obviously started on this journey for Castleman disease, and we will continue on this journey for Castleman disease. But we also really want to build upon what we've done for Castleman's for other diseases, particularly rare and neglected diseases. And so over the next couple of weeks, we'll be announcing the launch of a separate and new nonprofit called Every Cure. And Every Cure is focused on making sure that every patient that could benefit from a drug that's at your neighborhood pharmacy can actually receive that drug. And it's really all around drug repurposing. We're going to work really closely with Cures Within Reach. So anyway, thank you guys all so much. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Oh, well, now it works. This is one of, not the only, but one of our favorite parts of the summit, where we get to take a minute and say thank you to our Castleman Warrior Patient of the Year. For those of you who don't know what this means, so every single year we go to our community and we say, who do you think has gone above and beyond? Not more so than anybody, but it has really gone above and beyond in fighting back against Castleman disease. We award this to somebody every single year. And it's really about the definition of what that warrior means. So this person and all the people who have been awarded so far, they do all of the things. They've donated blood. They've joined ACCELERATE. They're part of the warrior program. They're supporting the community. They're constantly rallying, not just themselves and their support system, but every single one of you. So it's really special to be able to honor somebody every single year, because again, we can't do this alone. It really does take an army. I am super excited to be able to talk about this next person. This individual is somebody who has been a part of our organization for several years. I actually did connect with this person over email when they first joined our network. But super funny story is we were flying in for a patient summit, and we actually were at the very same airport together. We had no idea initially. And when I saw her in the airport, I was like, oh my goodness, how is this even possible? And from there, she has just been a constant advocate and support system for all of you. She's constantly reaching out, checking in with everybody. She is constantly making sure that she is communicating with the CDCN, doing absolutely everything that she can to help support this research. So it is my absolute honor and pleasure to award this year's Castleman Warrior Award Patient of the Year to Victoria Humphreys. Will you please come up here? Okay, for a minute. So for those of you who do not know her yet, this is Victoria. She has been with our organization for several years. Many of you will say this, is a great friend to all of you. You have reached out to her, you guys have talked. She supports you in any capacity that she can. I have really, really, really enjoyed getting to know her. She has struggled. She's had a lot of ups and downs. She's had a lot of bumps in her road, but she continues pushing forward like all of you. And in doing that, she also is continuing to try to push you guys forward, even through all your bumps and stuff. And so I really am so honored and proud of all that you have gone through. I'm so excited that we're able to honor you with this award. I'm going to give this to you. I'm also going to take it back because your one with your name on it will be given to you soon. Are you comfortable saying anything? Did you want to say anything? You don't have to. No pressure.
Everybody's been here for me when I need, so I'm just, trying to get that.
Absolutely. David, did you want to say anything? I'd like not to put you on the spot.
No, absolutely. This is such a special award that we get to give out every year. And it's an award that is nominated by the community, and it's an award that's voted on by our board of directors. And so Vicky is one of these people who just, it's all about everyone else. And we heard that during the patient session, the Coping with Castleman's talking about how she just loves being able to connect with other people that are part of her community. And we're so appreciative for you. So glad you're doing so well too. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mileva. I did want to make just one additional comment before I announce the third and final award of today. And that is related to drug repurposing. We've shared about sirolimus and how that drug has been transformative for my life and for some other patients in our community's lives. There's also another drug, a drug called ruxolitinib that we tried for the first time ever in a young patient who's here. And it was just so courageous of her as the first person ever with Castleman disease to receive ruxolitinib. It was based on a discovery that was made in our lab. And Kayla was really out of options at that stage. She'd been sick for about a year. And her doctor tried ruxolitinib, and she's been doing so well. It's been about 2 years that she's been on therapy, and I think it'll be 2 years in January. I learned that she'll have been in remission, which is just so amazing. And the reason I want to bring up Kayla in particular is that their family was recognized with the Castleman Warrior Award last year, but of course we weren't in person, it was virtual. So I just wanted to take a second for us to cheer for you guys. Kayla, you're amazing. Your family's amazing. So let's cheer for them. And that was another one of these drugs that was just sitting at your neighborhood pharmacy that no one had ever thought to try for Castleman disease. And I'm so glad we made that discovery. I'm so glad that you're on that drug. And that's what we just want to keep doing. And that's what Every Cure is about. That's what the CDCN is about, is going to just be to continue to find as many of those sorts of treatments to help as many patients as possible. All right. Now to the last award of the day. So this is the Physician of the Year award. We typically announce it at the American Society of Hematology meeting when all of our physicians and researchers are together. But it turned out this year that the person that we'd selected for the award was coming in town for the patient summit. So we thought that it would be even better to announce it here with you all, the patients in town. And this is someone that you guys have gotten a chance to hear from a couple of times today. And as I shared earlier, someone who, when I first got the chance to meet him and when he first showed up to our meeting in Atlanta at the American Society of Hematology, it was such a game changer for me. Like I said earlier, to all of a sudden see Dr. Casper coming into the room, someone who I knew was such an important part of the field, that he was coming to our meeting for Castleman disease, that we'd figured out a way to get, the Dr. Caspers of the world to join on with us, was so important. But I think much more important than him showing up to that first meeting has been his engagement throughout the last 10 years. He's been one of the most engaged board members in sort of every capacity, whether it is helping patients when we send patients his direction, or it's asking the really hard questions in board meetings. I've now joined a few boards other than the CDCN, and I always try to channel my inner Dr. Casper. And what that means is, it means always being so on top of everything that's being discussed, thinking critically about it, and then asking every question that needs to be asked. And a lot of times in board meetings, you have a bunch of people who like to nod their heads and say, thumbs up, way to go, Dave. But that's not what we need. What we need are people thinking really critically, asking the tough questions, and really pushing the field forward. And so Dr. Casper has been that and so much more. So it's really such an honor to award Dr. Corey Casper with this year's Castleman Warrior Physician of the Year Award. So well deserved, and it was so wonderful when we found out that you were making the trip here. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're gonna have to recognize you while you're here. And it was, I think, even more special that your wife could be here and she's here in the audience. So this is awesome. Thank you so
David.
much, and please share some more.
I mean, thank you all. This is unexpected and such a pleasant surprise. I guess what I would just say is that, an award is nice, but really the reward that I get is from what I learned from all of you. So I was so pleased today to see David. It's always a pleasure to see him in person, and we haven't had the opportunity to do that in some time. But more than that, I got to see Adrian, who's one of my patients from Seattle, who I have to come all the way to, to Philadelphia to see. But it reminded me, and this reward really reminds me that the true reward is how much I get to learn from working with Adrian and all of you. And that reward is that I get to learn something every single time I see one of you or get the privilege of caring for a patient with Castleman's disease. And what I get to learn is humility, is compassion, and something about a disease that is fascinating and complex and intriguing, but really there is no substitution for taking someone who has been struggling with this disease for so long and being able to do even the smallest thing to make them feel better. So that's the true reward, and it's a privilege, an honor. And I'm not just saying this, but it really is. It is one of the best things. It's one of the smaller parts of my life and my career. I wish I could say that I spend every minute dedicated to this disease, like David and all of you do. But it is really, truly the most rewarding thing that I do. So thank you all for giving me that opportunity and for giving all of us the opportunity to join a community in which is so supportive, in which together we've done such amazing things. And I look forward to working with you in the future. You've had me for a decade, and I'll continue to serve as long as you will put up with me asking those horrible questions in the board meetings. And yeah, so thank you all. It's a real pleasure.